Okay, so we're gonna start and just make like a kind of standard issue like Battleship game. So if you remember when you play Battleship, you'll have like, I don't know, your little grid here, and you'll have like a battleship, and I'll be like this little battleship dude. And you'll have a little battleship dude. I think this is your destroyer and your carrier. I don't know. But this will be like your target. This will be like the other player. And then you'll have like your thingy over here, and it'll be like shoop, choop, choop, and it'll be the same size. 1, 2, 3, 4, and oh, apparently this is a 4x4 now. And you'll be like A1, and it'll be like hit, and you'll be like awesome, I made a hit. And you'll be like B1, and it'll be like miss, because there's nothing there, and you'll be like, oh no. So there must be something here. So you'll be like A2, and it'll be like hit, and you'll be like awesome, and it'll be like A3, I'll be like hit, and it'll be like you sunk my carrier, or whatever it is. You're like awesome, sweet sauce. And then you kind of go around, and eventually you go to, C, whatever this is called, C3, and you get a hit, and D3 you get a hit, and whenever you hit all their stuff, then you win. Yay! Okay, so this is one of the first games I played that was computer based as a kid. It was actually hardware, and you had to go in and you had to program in where your stuff was. It was super crazy. Also because the software wasn't clever enough to know if you would like set your battleship like this. So you could just put in complete nonsense, and then the other person would be trying to hit nonsense, and so you could win by default. But we're not going to worry about that. But essentially what we're going to do is create a battleship game that kind of goes like this. So we're going to have a target board that goes kind of like this, and we're going to have kind of like we're going to call it like my board. I have really amazing handwriting. Or have my board where we kind of keep our guesses. So we're either going to have a hit or we're going to have a miss. But we're going to kind of create a little battleship game here in Matlab. It's going to be super amazing, and you're going to love it. Okay, awesome. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to start by creating a new script. And I like to start my new scripts with CLC clear. And I'm going to save this as Battleship, because that's totes what it's going to be. All right, so I'm going to create my target. And just for simplicity, I'm going to use 1s and 0s. So 1 wherever a boat's going to be, in 0s wherever it's not going to be. And I'm just going to like line it up so it's kind of pretty. And I don't really specifically want it to be like a square matrix. I'm just going to put an extra load of 0s down there. So this is what does this end up being, like a 5x4 matrix? So you can make yours whatever size you want. And in fact, if you make yours your own size, a different size, and it still works, then that's a better indication that you actually know what's going on. So doop-de-doop-de-doo. Okay, I put a little suppression device down there. But if you take that off and you run it, so remember I can hit Control-Enter, or if I have my ribbon here open, I can hit under Editor, I can hit Run Section, and it'll run it. But I can also hit Control-Enter. I'm going to format compact just so that I don't have a whole bunch of extra lines, but I'm going to run this, and there's my target. So I'm going to assume that the boat is there, there's a 1, and if the boat's not there, there's a 0. Okay, so whenever you're making a game, anytime you're doing anything in programming, just in general, you want to do a little bit, run it, do a little bit, run it, do a little bit, run it, see if it's working. So, okay, so when I'm starting the game, I think about my board is going to be 0s. Now, I could type out a whole bunch of 0s. But if we know anything about programmers, we know that the best programmers are, no, you probably type this up because you're doing it as I'm doing it maybe. The best programmers are lazy. So even though I can do this and it's totally valid, hello cuckoo clock, if this target ends up being a different size, then I've always got to make it the same size or whatever. So rather than making and typing out all these 0s, there's actually a function in Matlab that can make a whole bunch of 0s the same size. Shockingly, this function is called zeros. If you remember, if we need to figure out what a function does in Matlab, I can come down here and I can type help zeros. So help zeros, and it says zeros. Mn is an m by n matrix of zeros. Okay, so m by n. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want a 5 by 4 matrix of zeros. Hot damn, that's beautiful. Okay. So I've got myself a 5 by 4 matrix of zeros. So these are all my guesses. So I haven't guessed anything, and these are what I'm going for. Beautiful. This works. This is a game. I guess I should make it seem like it's fun. Because, hey, fellow kids, welcome to my super awesome, what's-he-does-its, Battleship game. And now it says, welcome to my super awesome Battleship game. Now, I don't actually want to show target equals or my board equals, but I might want to be like, this is, you know, the list of current guesses, maybe? Current guesses? And then I could be like, display my board. And again, this is the thing with programming, is you just kind of do a little bit, you see what it works, you see what you like, and you just kind of go from there. So you notice that every time I'm doing something fun, or every time I change something, I just kind of run it again, see what happens, run it again, see what happens, just for funsies. Okay, so I got my Battleship game. This is what the user would see. Good job, welcome to my super awesome Battleship game. This is my target, this is my board, and currently the user just sees this, so that's pretty great. Okay, so now you think about what would I do in a real Battleship game? Well, if I was playing Battleship, I would guess like A1 or B1 or C, whatever. Now, because I don't really know how to deal with A's, B's, and C's, I can just deal with 1, 2s, and 3s. I'll just have it do rows and columns. So instead of doing 1 through 4 for rows and 1 through whatever for columns, or A through whatever for columns, I'll do numbers for rows and for columns. So again, the thing is, whenever you're doing this code, a lot of times I'm going to have y'all do stuff that maybe you've never done before, and that's okay. That's kind of the fun part. A lot of times you don't really learn anything until the third time you've seen it anyway. So sometimes I just like to show y'all stuff that we haven't officially learned, just because then when you officially learn it, you're like, wait, I feel like I've already seen this before. And it's like, well, yeah, because I've shown it to you accidentally like 600 times. So essentially what we want to do is we want to ask the user, you know, give me a row and a column that you want to guess for. So it can be like, you know, what row here and what column here are you wanting to guess at? I'll be like, okay, we'll go ahead and guess at that. So if we want to get input from a user, shockingly, we're going to use a function called input. And we can come in here, we can be like help input, prompt user for input, result equals input prompt, displays the prompt, blah, 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 waits for input from the keyboard, okay. And all right, let's just see what we can do here. Okay. So, all right, so we're going to be like, I'm going to call it row guess, because I got to call it something, right? Because it says the result is on the left side of the equal sign. So the result is what it's going to be put into. The keyword is input, or the function name is input, and whatever goes in the parentheses is the prompt. Okay, so I'm going to be like, give me a row. All right. Row guess, give me a row. See, it says give me a row. I'm going to put 3. So row guess is 3. All right. Now there's a couple of things I could do here. So see row guess is 3. Come over here, see how row guess is 3 over in the workspace. If you're not seeing that, if you go into Home, Layout, click Default. So if I kind of mess everything up, where this isn't here, and this isn't here, and this is over here, and this is over here, and everything's all messed up, then I can go to Home, Layout, Default, and everything's back where it's supposed to be. And if I open up Battleship, it's right there and it's beautiful. Give me a row. Row guess is 3. Okay, so you see how that's there? And again, you could go ahead and you can click Run Section. I'm hitting Control Enter because I'm lazy. Give me a row. 3. Beautiful. I'm going to pop this up here so I have a little bit more room. Now, I'm going to be a little picky and say that I don't like the fact that it says give me a row 3 because it makes it look like that's one word. So I'm going to put like a little doopy schlop there, like a, what do you call that thing, a colon, and put a space. The space will give it a little bit going on here. So whenever I say give me a row, it'll say 3. Okay, so now the row guess is 3. And let's do a column guess and do it again. Give me a column. And do the same thing. So make sure you give it a little bit of space. The space needs to go before the quote sign. So see, if I put the space after the quote sign, I'm not going to get an error, but whenever I say give me a column 2, see how the 2 comes right after the colon because the quote comes right after the colon. So it's going to print the colon, that's the end of the string, and then whatever you type in is going to be right after that. Whereas here, you've got the colon, the space, oops, and then the quote. It would just be like if I put a ton of space here, that's where all those spaces would be, 3 and 2. See how this is all those spaces? So you can kind of mess with that. But I'm just going to do that. Okay, so 3 and 2. So again, I'm not suppressing any of this output because I want to be able to see it and make sure it works. So I have row guess is 3 and column guess is 2. Row guess is 3, column guess is 2. Notice how every time I do something new, I'm running it to make sure it works. Okay, now that I know it works, I'm going to suppress the intermediate output because I don't want my users to get confused by, well, what is row guess? What is call guess? So I'm going to, again, save it every once in a while so you don't forget. Run it, give me a row 3, give me a column 2. Okay, so now what would we do with this? So if I was playing a game against somebody, in this case I'm playing against a computer, that somebody would look at their board, in this case it would be the target, and they'd be like, okay, so I'm going to go to 3, 2, and see if something's there. Okay, so if something is there, it's a hit. Otherwise, it's a miss. Does that make sense? So if something is there, it's a hit. Otherwise, it's a miss. So I'm going to go 3, 2. Now, I don't want to hard code in 3, 2 because maybe the user is going to type in, 4, 1. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to look at the target board at the location of row guess, column guess. Okay, right now I'm just going to display that by itself. So if I look at one row, let's say row 2, column 1, I should get a boat, right? If I go to row 2, column 3, there's no boat. Okay. If I go to row 4, column 3, there's a boat. If I go to row 5, column 1, there's no boat. Okay, so you kind of see. So before you go any further, test out this code, and this is what you should be doing as you write code, is every time you add something new, kind of test it out. Make sure it's giving you what you think. In theory, if I go 4, 4, I should get that there's a boat there. Okay? So we're going to run through this, make sure we got a boat. Boat seems good to go. If it's not, go figure out what you're going. You might have these flip backwards or something like that, but we're going to go the row and go the column. Okay, so essentially now we want to say, now what do I want to do with this information? So if I just say this out loud, I'm going to say, well, if it's a 1, if it's a 1, then it's a hit. Otherwise, it's not. And believe it or not, you just said the code basically out loud. So you said, if it's a 1, it's a hit. And believe it or not, that's all you have to kind of type in, is you want to say, if that is a 1. Now, I will say there's this little silly thing in Matlab where you don't just say if it's a 1, you want to say if it for realsies is a 1. You don't just write an equal sign. There's this unofficial reason. The official reason is because an equal sign by itself is an assignment operator, 2 equal signs together are a comparative operator. But I just like to say that it's like asking for realsies. Like, instead of just saying is it equal to 1, like is it for realsies equal to 1? Is it like legit for realsies awesome equal to 1? Remember that you can add comments for realsies. Is it 1? So a double equal sign. If it's really equal to 1, you can say it's a hit. Now the word for otherwise in programming languages is else. Otherwise, it's a miss. And you want to end your if statement. So whenever, I don't know if you saw that, whenever I click the end, you see how I click end, and the end and the if and the else all kind of underlined? That's to indicate they all go together. If I type another end, see how it goes a line through it because it doesn't belong to anybody? Yeah. So this if goes with this else, goes with this end. They're all friends. They're all part of the same conversation. So if it's a hit, it's a hit. Otherwise, it's a miss. So I'm going to run this code, and I just want to test this out. I'm going to save it again. But I'm just going to keep playing with this and see if I can get it. So row 1, 1 should be a hit, which it is. 1, 2 should be a miss. So you want to run this a couple of times and make sure you're getting the answers that you're expecting to get. 5, 4. Now what you will notice is if I go like 6, 6, which is way out there, I'm going to get an error. That's okay. We can deal with that another time. So just like if you put in like a 0, you're going to get an error. So you have to put in a valid number. We'll just, again, have to deal with this in the future. But for the moment, let's just kind of be happy. You can't anticipate all the problems. You have to expect losses in bigger operations. 2, 2 should give me a 0, and it's a miss, and it's working out great. Now, as a user, think about what you would do. You ask the other player, hey, was this a hit? Was it a miss? And then what would you do over here? You'd be like, okay, if it was a hit, maybe you put a check mark. If it was a miss, maybe you'd put an X. Okay. Now, again, because we're just getting started in Matlab, I don't want to figure out how to do check marks and X's. So instead, maybe for this one, I'm going to put like a, come here, girl. It's not going to let me. What if for this one, I just put like a +1, and for X's, I put a -1, like that. That's supposed to be a -1. So like -1 if it's a miss, -1 if it's a miss. I don't know why it doesn't like me to do this one. It's -1, -1, -1 for misses. How's that? -1 for misses, +1 for checks, and 0s for anything I haven't tried yet. That sound good? Okay, I mean, not like you really have a choice, but that's what I'm going to do. You can do something else, I guess. So if it's a hit, I'm going to go into my board, and wherever that row and column is, if it's a hit, I'm going to set that value to 1. Otherwise, I'm going to put that equal to -1. And I think this is my list of current guesses. I'm going to list my current guesses again, just so I can see where I am. So I'm going to guess 1, 1. So look, I made hits. And 2, 2 would be a miss. Now I keep rerunning it so I don't have the hit from last time because I reran the game fresh. So I'm not keeping information from one run to the next, but this is a good start. So this is, I'm going to say add a 1 for a hit, add a -1 to indicate a miss, we just like to comment on our code. I might want to say something like put in an extra space before the quote, just for funsies. Anyway, so I would say get this working, and then we'll go into the next step. But this is a good little start. So we've obviously got a lot of work to do to keep this going. It feels like a lot of work, but maybe not as much work as it needs to be yet. But yeah, we got some work to do. But this will get us started. So we definitely want this working before we go to the next step.